Hello everyone. Welcome to the video on how to crack the LR section of JIPMAT. My name is Alpesh and I'm going to help you with this session. First thing to begin with, let us look at what are the things that we are going to cover in this session. The first thing that we will look at is the pattern of the LR section. The second thing that we will look at is the different types of LR questions that are there. And the third thing is what to study and what not to in this LR section. So, let us look at the structure of the LR section of JIPMAT. Now, in JIPMAT, you have 33 questions. There is no time limit given in the test. The test overall has 100 questions to be attempted in 150 minutes. Out of that 100 questions, you get 33 questions of LR. And the distribution of these 33 questions is, you will get around 9 questions on data interpretation. You get 4 questions on analogy, coding, decoding, and so on. Series completion is 4 questions. You get 5 questions on verbal reasoning also, and the various topics are as you can see on the screen. Now, first thing to be realized here is majority of my questions in JIPMAT from logical reasoning are easy. And hence, this section is supposed to be a section in which I can score. Okay, so again, what should be an ideal attempt out of these 33 questions? I have been talking to lots of students who have been taking JIPMAT, and most of the students have come and told me that they are able to attempt out of 100 questions anywhere in the range of 98, 99, or even there are students who have attempted all the 100 questions also. So, according to me, in JIPMAT, an ideal attempt has to be all the 100 questions, because remember, JIPMAT, you have 100 questions, 150 minutes. That means you have more than a minute per question. So this is not a test of speed. This is more of a test of accuracy. So as far as even an LR is concerned, I would suggest if you can attempt all the 33 questions, maybe 1 or 2 questions here and there which might be dicey can be left out. Now, let us look at the 3 different types of LR questions that you get. So I have categorized the number of questions into 3 parts. The first part is going to be visual reasoning. The second part is verbal reasoning. And the third part is analytical reasoning. Under visual reasoning, these are the topics that you normally get. You get questions which are based on mirror and water images. You get questions which are based on odd one out. You get questions which are based on completing the series. You get questions which are based on paper folding and cutting, and the questions on cubes. My simple strategy to attempt such type of questions would be keep practicing maybe 20 questions of each type. Pick up 20 questions of each type, and we have something called as benchmarking tests. So take benchmarking tests. So whenever you are doing visual reasoning, make sure that you do all the questions of this type. Okay, pick up 20 questions of each. So 20 questions of analogy, 20 of odd man out, 20 of series completion, and practice variety of questions that come under this. So the more you solve, what will happen is the more variety you will come across. Once you are done with this, make sure you attempt the benchmarking test of visual reasoning. The second type of questions is verbal reasoning. Under verbal reasoning, you get statement and assumptions, statement and conclusions, statement and course of actions, statement and arguments, and you also get something called as syllogisms. Again, this type of questions are low accuracy questions. Why am I saying low accuracy questions is because there is a little bit of dicey in the thinking in various parts of these questions. So what I would suggest is you solve again around 40 questions of each type. Once you solve around 40 questions of each type, you will get to know what is that the question is asking us for. What is that we have to look out in each question. And as I said earlier, you will get a variety of questions under them. So if you solve around 40 questions, I'm sure you will get all different types of questions and you will be in a better position to attempt such questions. Again, once you are done with this, the next thing that you have to do is solve the benchmarking test of verbal reasoning that is available. Then let's move on to analytical reasoning, which I'm sure are topics which every one of us are aware of. Something like family tree, coding, decoding, questions on directions, questions on series completion. There are questions on arrangement also. Arrangement could be either a linear or a circular arrangement, or it could also be a matrix arrangement. There are data sufficiency questions. There are data or quantitative comparison types of questions, and so on. Okay, and there is data interpretation also. My simple suggestion is, if you pick up topics like blood relations, coding, decoding, so on, solve 40 questions of each type there. I am sure you will come across all varieties in that 40 questions. When you're looking at arrangement type of questions, solve around 10 sets of linear arrangement question, 10 sets of circular arrangement question, 10 sets of matrix arrangement questions, and so on. The same thing you can do even for your DI sets. Solve around 10 bar graphs, 10 line graphs, 10 tabular data. That should be 10 sets I'm talking of. That should be sufficient for you to get into or to find out what am I supposed to do to attempt such sections or questions. Okay. Next, let's look at the special pointers. As I said that this type of questions are very, very easy. So important thing here is just to get used to the different types of questions that we get. Once we get used to the different types of questions, then it becomes much, much easier for us in the test. So my suggestion for you would be, you start preparing the analytical reasoning sections, because those are the questions which are relatively easier. Once you are done with the analytical reasoning questions, then you go on to the visual reasoning questions. Once you are done with the visual reasoning questions, then ideally I will look at the verbal reasoning questions. Why I'm asking you to do the verbal reasoning questions a little later, as I said, those are less accuracy questions, whereas analytical reasoning and visual reasoning questions are questions which are with high accuracy. Now, first thing, once your concepts are done, make sure that you solve practice questions. Solve as many questions as you can for practice. Okay. So, and also make sure that you solve questions from easy level to medium level, because as I said, the questions are easier, but just in case if you get more difficult questions, you should be prepared for that. So make sure that you solve the medium questions also. Okay, and resolve the questions that you could not solve. What do I mean by this is, let's assume you're just taking a small test. Okay, once the test is over, let's say there were 5 sets, you solved only 3, or you solved all 5 but 2 went wrong. What you should do? You should resolve those sets that you did not get, or the sets that you missed out. Practice as many questions as you can. I think in logical reasoning, that is the first thing to do. The more you practice, the more you will get used to those types of questions. Okay. Once I have practiced all the different types of questions, then my suggestion would be to revise what you have done. If you have made some notes while doing the concepts, just go through those notes. Okay. Keep practicing more questions. Once you are confident with the different types of questions, start taking test in a timed mode. Because once you start taking test in a time mode, what happens is, even an easier question, you might not get it in that time limit. Hence, practicing in a time limit is equally important. So once you have cleared all your concepts, get into practicing tests in timed mode. And once that is done, I'm sure you will start solving the JIPMAT. So I'm sure I've helped you in preparing for the LR section of JIPMAT. All the best for the test.